Rain hammered the rusted metal roof, a relentless, deafening roar that swallowed every other sound. Inside, the air tasted of damp concrete and stagnant dust. Noah stood over the narrow cot, his shadow stretching across the floor as the storm flickered through the cracks. Eli sat motionless, his hands locked around his knees, knuckles white from the pressure. Noah leaned in, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "You do not belong here." The words hit the small space, absolute and cold. Eli did not flinch. He did not look up. He kept his gaze fixed on the fractured concrete, his grip tightening until his fingers ached. The storm outside surged, a sudden crack of thunder rattling the walls, but Eli remained still. The rejection was not a surprise. It was a weight he had been carrying for months. He felt the cold seep through the floorboards into his bones. Noah turned and walked away, the sound of his boots lost in the rain. Eli stayed on the cot, listening to the rhythm of the downpour. He needed to move. The silence pushed him to his feet. The next morning, the facility was a grid of predictable movements. Eli stood near the heavy iron gate, his eyes tracking the guards as they rotated their shifts. He watched the clock on the wall, then the gate, then the guards again. Every 4 minutes, the lock mechanism clicked, a sharp metallic sound that echoed against the perimeter wall. He had spent weeks mapping this rhythm, waiting for the exact moment of transition. He walked toward the supply closet, his movements slow and deliberate to avoid drawing attention. He found a discarded metal rod, its surface rough and pitted with rust. He gripped it firmly, feeling the weight of the iron in his palm. He moved to the side door, checking the perimeter one last time. No guards were in sight. He knelt by the hinge, his breath steady, and wedged the rod into the gap. He pushed with his full weight, hearing the metal grind against metal as it jammed the mechanism tight. He stood back, his hands empty, and watched the door. The tension in his shoulders finally eased. He had created the opening he needed. The facility was about to change. The silence shattered. A high-pitched, rhythmic siren erupted from the side door, tearing through the morning mist and bouncing off the concrete walls. It was a piercing, mechanical scream that demanded immediate attention. Inside the guard station, the effect was instantaneous. Heavy boots thudded against the floor as men scrambled toward the main entrance, their shouts muffled by the intensity of the alarm. Eli did not wait to see the outcome of his sabotage. He pushed off from the wall, his muscles coiled and ready. He hit the open yard at a full sprint, his boots pounding against the gravel. The air was thick with damp fog, obscuring the path ahead, but he kept his eyes locked on the perimeter fence. Behind him, the guards were focused entirely on the side door, their flashlights cutting erratic beams through the gray haze. He moved low, keeping his body tight to the shadows of the storage crates. Every second was a gamble. He could hear the heavy clatter of equipment as the guards converged on the source of the noise. The facility was in total disarray. He reached the base of the perimeter fence, his chest heaving. Eli grabbed the chain link. The metal was cold and slick with morning dew. He hauled his weight upward, his boots finding purchase in the diamond-shaped gaps. As he reached for the top, the sharp edges of the wire bit into his palms. He did not let go. He felt the sting of blood, warm and thin, trickling down his wrists, but he pulled harder, his muscles straining against the resistance of the fence. He crested the top, swung his legs over, and dropped. He hit the gravel on the other side with a jarring thud that rattled his teeth. He rolled, came to his feet, and kept moving. He did not look back. Every step took him further from the perimeter, his lungs burning with the sharp intake of cold air. He ran until the facility was no longer a structure, but a gray smudge against the horizon. He pushed through the tall grass, his pace steadying as the immediate threat of the guards faded. The facility was gone. He was alone in the open field. Eli reached the hollow beneath an ancient oak and collapsed. His body shook with the sudden release of adrenaline. He pulled a crumpled map from his pocket, his fingers tracing a line toward the coast. The paper was damp, the ink blurred, But the path remained clear. He knew the search parties would be out by noon. He stood, wiped the mud from his face, and stepped deeper into the dark woods. Every branch that snapped under his boots sounded like a gunshot in the stillness. He kept moving, eyes scanning the dense canopy for any sign of pursuit. The forest was thick, unforgiving, and vast. He traded the iron gates for the tangled roots and shadows of the wild. He pushed through the underbrush, leaving his former life behind, disappearing into the dangerous unknown.